Hello and welcome to Buffy and the Art of Story. If you love Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and you love creating stories or just taking them apart to see how they work, you're in the right place. I am Lisa M. Lilly, author of supernatural thrillers and traditional detective mysteries, including the Q.C. Davis mysteries, and of the Writing as a Second Career books on fiction writing. Today we're talking about Season 1 of Angel, Episode 1, City of, where we are introduced to Angel in Los Angeles as he starts his life without Buffy. If you would like to hear me talk about Buffy, which I have done for several years now, you can go back in the feed. You'll find every episode of Buffy there, and you'll find more bonus content about Buffy on Patreon at patreon.com/Lisa M. Lilly. That's Lisa, M as in Marie, Lilly. Thank you so much for sticking with me as we go into Angel. As longtime listeners know, I am not quite as much of a fan of Angel as I am of Buffy, and that's why I am so looking forward to diving into these episodes and seeing what it is I love and maybe don't love as much about Angel. And I'm especially looking forward to hearing from those of you who really think Angel is as good or maybe better than Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm trying out a slightly new format. I'll do an overview of the plot, and then I will talk about aspects of it that work best and don't. I'll talk about theme, the most compelling characters, and the world building. How is this world different from Buffy or not? Does it just extend the Buffyverse? And finally, I will rate every episode from 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, on par with Once More with Feeling, and 3.5 being my least favorite Buffy episodes, like Where the Wild Things Are. So you can tell I'm leaving a little room to go below that in case I do not find my least favorite Angel episodes quite stack up. All right, let's dive into the Hellmouth, this time in LA. City of aired the first time on October 5, 1999. It was written by Joss Whedon and David Greenwalt and directed by Joss Whedon. It starts with a voiceover by Angel. It's a nighttime scene of LA. He talks about the city being a beacon people are drawn to for different reasons. For him, it started with a girl. So very noir type of opening with the voiceover and the nighttime scene. In a bar, Angel, seemingly drunk, babbles about a pretty blonde girl, but all the while he's keeping an eye on two women who are playing pool with two men, and when they leave, Angel becomes very focused. He stands up and in slow motion to dramatic music follows them out of the bar. In the alley, the two guys vamp out. They start to attack. Angel approaches, playing drunk again. He stumbles over, looking for his car. It takes the vampires off guard. He's wearing this long leather coat, and there's this great moment where he shoots a stake out of the sleeve of each side simultaneously. I know there's a fancy word for that, and I don't know what it is, but it looks very cool, and I'm pretty sure appears in the credits of Angel Forever After. He knocks the vampires out. The women are really grateful. They are also bleeding, and he's in the shadows, but he vamps out too, and he tells them to get away. He is clearly tempted to bite them. He stalks off, his long coat billowing out behind him like a cape, another great credits image, and now we go to those credits. On return, it's nighttime. Angel goes into an office building. His office is on the ground floor, and he has an apartment below, so no windows, all interior brick. As always, Angel's a very good decorator. Someone surprises him, though. It's Doyle, who is half human, half demon. And he tells Angel that the powers that be sent him to Angel. And he has a warning that if Angel stays disconnected with the world the way he is now and cut off from people, eventually he'll start feeding on them again. Angel admits that he drank Buffy's blood, and Doyle says now he has a craving for human blood, and he runs through Angel's more or less life story, complete with flashbacks from Buffy. And it includes him being cursed with a soul, falling for Buffy, losing the soul, being reinsouled, and choosing to leave Buffy. This is a lot of exposition. It's necessary for people who never saw Buffy. And I think it is done pretty well because Angel is resistant to talking to Doyle. So even though he knows this whole story, there is some push and pull here. And some of it is Angel is saying, yeah, I know this story. Why are you telling it to me? And Doyle tells him he knows the story, but he misses the point, which is about Angel being cut off. Angel is not quite sold on this whole powers that be thing. They keep talking as they walk outside at night. Doyle extols the virtues of compassion, and a street person asks him for money. He calls her a lazy sow and tells her to get a job, then goes right back to lecturing Angel. This and other comments cue us that, like Buffy, though there'll be dark aspects to the show, there will be humor. It is a little more ironic and sarcastic than in Buffy, not quite the same light tone, but it does provide that same type of contrast. Doyle gets visions, which come with mind-blowing migraines, of people who need help, and he got one this morning about someone named Tina. And that's pretty much it, the name and an address. He tells Angel he needs to find Tina and connect with her. That is the story spark or inciting incident that gets the main plot rolling. And most people know at this point, but I'll throw it in anyway, the character of Doyle is very similar to Whistler in Becoming Parts 1 and 2, where Whistler was a demon who came to Buffy. The show did want to bring Whistler back, but they were not able to, so they created the part of Doyle. At a restaurant, Angel drinks a cup of coffee and watches a waitress named Tina. So the address was for this diner. She's asking for extra shifts. She needs money. Angel tries to flirt with her and is super awkward. So we think she agreed to meet him because of that, because she has a little sympathy for him, and also just look at Angel. When he meets her after her shift, though, she is dressed in a really nice evening gown and pulls pepper spray on him. She accuses him of working for someone named Russell. Angel eventually convinces her he doesn't know who that is. They bond over being lonely, which is interesting because Angel is lonely, so this is honest, and that's probably part of why it connects with Tina. She came to LA to be an actress. She never really broke into the business, and she just wants to go home to Montana, but doesn't have enough money. He gives her a ride to this fabulous Hollywood party. She's only going because her old roommate is there, and the roommate owes Tina money. At the party, Angel draws plenty of admiring looks, including from a manager or agent who comes up and tells him he's a beautiful man and he's an actor. And Angel claims he isn't, and the man just says, "No, you're an actor," and gives him his card. Then Angel hears a familiar voice.
I'm an actress. I don't put up with things like that.
Cordelia?
Oh my God, Angel?
Nice to see a familiar face.
I didn't know you were in LA. Are you living here?
Yeah. You?
Malibu? A small condo on a beach. It's not a private beach, but you know, I'm young, so I forbear.
And you're acting.
Can you believe it? I mean, I just started it as a way to make some quick cash, and then boom, it was like my life. So, are you still...
Yeah. There's not actually a cure for that.
Right. But you're not evil. I mean, you're not here to, you know, bite people?
No, I just gave a friend a ride.
Oh, good. Well, I better get mingly. I really should be talking to people that are somebody. But it was fun.
Angel sees a guy grabbing Tina's arm. Tina pulls away, finds Angel, and tells him her friend didn't have the money. As they leave, a few goons ambush them. Angel gets trapped in the elevator. Tina runs, but they catch her and push her into a car. This is about a quarter way through the episode, and it's a good first plot turn because now we'll shift to Angel directly dealing with these guys who work for Russell. When Angel gets out of the elevator, he runs after them, and at first he jumps into the wrong black convertible. So a little more humor there, and it's great because it allows the show to poke fun at itself a little, and Angel to poke fun at himself a little, that he's driving around in this black convertible and he's a vampire and he's so serious. He gets to his own car, he catches up with the goons, they get out and fight, and one of them pulls a gun. So this is new. This is not like Buffy. We rarely saw guns in Buffy, and here is one in the very first episode. The goon says he doesn't believe Angel will pull the trigger when Angel gets the gun from him. Angel punches him out and says, "Good call." Cordelia at home hangs up her dress, it's her only nice dress, and listens to a voicemail from her agent saying the networks have seen enough of her. And it's basically a "don't call us, we'll call you" message. At his apartment, Angel makes tea and listens to Tina. She cries at how genuinely kind he is. And she tells him about another woman she knew, Denise, who tried to leave Russell and disappeared. While Tina sleeps, Angel goes to the library. Presumably he broke in because it's the middle of the night. He finds out a number of women have disappeared, including one named Denise with a rose tattoo. We're around the middle of the episode, and Angel did make a commitment here. He promised Tina that he will stop this before he left for the library. Now he gets back and suffers a reversal because when he returns, Tina is screaming. She had this bad dream and she swears that Russell was there. Angel reassures her. He tells her about the research. She confirms Denise had a rose tattoo, but then she sees Doyle's note with her name and address. Now she's convinced it's all a twisted Russell game and she runs. So this is the major reversal. Angel tries to follow her, but she runs out in the sun and his arm catches fire. He vamps out. She is terrified and leaves. In her apartment, Tina packs and she turns around fast and pulls her own gun on a guy who creeps up on her. It's Russell, and he acts really nice. He convinces her, sort of, that he paid Denise's plane ticket home, that he just talked to her yesterday and she's fine, and he will do whatever Tina wants. He holds Tina and asks who's been telling her these things. Tina is genuinely confused. She thought the guy talking to her worked for Russell, but then he turned into this thing. She says the most frightening thing she ever saw. Now Russell vamps out as well, further terrifying her and bites her. The scene cuts to Angel. He runs up the stairs of her apartment building. There's dramatic music. There are cuts between Tina and Russell and Angel, and we think he's going to get there just in time. Longtime listeners of the podcast know that the deaths of my mom and dad were caused by someone who chose to drink and drive. That's part of why I was so thrilled to learn about Ritual Zero Proof. Ritual Zero Proof delivers the flavor and the fun of traditional spirits without the alcohol. Each variety, from tequila to whiskey, brings bold botanical flavors to your cocktails. It gives you options Whether you want to avoid alcohol all the time for health or other reasons, or just some of the time so you can celebrate without concerns about driving home after, or whether you'll be as sharp as you want to be first thing in the morning. Best of all, my podcast listeners get the very best deal available. If you go to ritualzeroproof.com and use the promo code BuffyStory, all one word, at checkout, you'll get 16% off any product. I earn a commission when you use that code, and you get the best price. Remember, ritualzeroproof.com and enter Buffy Story at checkout. If you try it out, please let me know what fun cocktails you make. You can use some of the recipes that are there on the site. I would love to hear about it. That's ritualzeroproof.com, and the discount code for 16% off is Buffy Story, all one word. When he bursts into her apartment, Tina is already dead. The scene cuts to her body being taken away. Angel watches from the rooftop of a building across the way, then jumps off, very Batman-like. It is, once again, nighttime. In a lot of shows, that would have been the climax. It's built up as if it is the climax. His mission was to connect with Tina and help her, and now he failed. But we're about 3/4 through the episode, and this is really that last major plot turn, because the story now is going to turn toward Russell and Cordelia. In the library of a mansion, a lawyer reports to Russell about an alibi arranged for him for Tina's death. Russell is watching video of that party, and he seems almost sad about Tina. He wasn't ready to lose her yet. Then Cordelia catches his attention. He tells the lawyer he doesn't want to make a long-term investment. He just wants something to eat. Angel finds and intimidates one of the goons to try to get information about Russell. The goon tells him to stay away from Russell. He will kill everyone Angel cares about. Angel says there's no one left, and the scene cuts to Cordelia. Great cut. She is sitting cross-legged in her apartment reciting affirmations, but she stops. She's frustrated. She's hungry. And then the phone rings, and one of her friends from the party tells her about Russell, an investment guy who can introduce her to people and maybe help her career. As she rides in a limousine to Russell's mansion, Cordelia marvels at how well her affirmations worked. At the mansion, she meets Russell in the library and comments on the beautiful curtains, and adds, quote, "not afraid to emphasize the curtains," end quote. She tells him she grew up in a nice home, and then, under his seemingly kind questions, starts confiding how hard it has been trying to get work as an actress. Angel, in the meantime, enlists Doyle's help in finding Russell's address. Doyle is clear he is not going to fight. In fact, he has to be talked into even driving Angel there. When they pull up at the guardhouse, Angel punches out the guard and leaps the wrought iron fencing, leaving Doyle there to wait to drive him away. Inside, Cordelia apologizes for getting a little weepy. She must look terrible. She looks around for a mirror and comments again on all the curtains and no mirrors, and then says, "Hey, you're a vampire." Russell responds, "What? No, I'm not." She tells him she's from Sunnydale. They had their own Hellmouth. Then she backpedals, obviously thinking the better of calling him out on being a vampire, but it's too late and he vamps out. Angel uses various gadgets to break into the mansion, and he sets a timer on the electrical panel to blow it out. Cordelia runs from Russell, and the lights go out just as he catches her. Angel attacks. Cordelia is so relieved to see him. More of Russell's goons arrive. Angel shields Cordelia from the gunshots with his body, then holds her and leaps down to the lower floor and carries her out. Outside, Doyle worries about Angel, who's been gone too long, and he tries to ram the car through the gates. The car gets a bit damaged, but fortunately is still drivable when Angel and Cordelia get there. Now, we could see that as the climax. The opposing forces, Angel and Russell, had a confrontation. Angel sort of partly prevailed in that he was able to protect Cordelia, but he did not vanquish Russell, and I do not think that was actually the climax. So another time the show plays a little bit with our expectations because there is going to be another confrontation between the two. At Angel's apartment, Cordelia and Doyle tend to his wounds. Cordelia worries that Russell will still come after her. The scene cuts to a large glass skyscraper that says Russell Winters Enterprises on the front. Russell meets in a large conference room with a bunch of business people and lawyers, including the one who was at his mansion. We'll find out his name is Lindsay, and he is from a firm called Wolfram and Hart. Lindsay says they haven't found the intruder who broke into the mansion yet, but they have several private investigators looking into his whereabouts. Angel bursts into the conference room, and Russell dryly says, "I believe we've located him." Lindsay hands Angel a card, threatens to bring him into the light of day, a place he's told is not that healthy for Angel. Russell now explains to Angel how Los Angeles works. Russell is civilized. He runs businesses, pays taxes, keeps a low profile. He tells Angel that people like them don't have to hide away there. Angel seems like he's listening, taking it in. He rests a foot on Russell's chair as Russell expounds. As a result, Russell says he can do anything. Angel smiles and says, "Can you fly?" He shoves Russell out the window. The glass breaks. Russell screams and burns up on the way down. The chair hits the ground. And Angel says, "Guess not." He tucks Lindsay's business card back into Lindsay's shirt pocket and leaves. So I see that as the climax, that final confrontation between Angel and Russell. So a bit of a surprise. After he's gone, Lindsay calls someone and says there's a new player in town, but no need to tell the senior partners yet. So this is the start of the falling action where we wind up loose ends and sow some seeds for the future. And here there's some hints that Wolfram and Hart may continue to be important because we see that call from Lindsay, who seems a bit apprehensive about the senior partners. Angel prevailed over Russell, but it is a Pyrrhic victory, which, if you remember, is a victory where the protagonist wins, but at an almost unbearable cost. And here that cost was Tina's life. And there's a little bit of a play on the Pyrrhic victory idea because we do literally have Russell burning up. It's a win for Angel, though not just because he prevailed over Russell, but because while he couldn't save Tina, he accepted the mission and the idea of the powers that be letting him know who he can help. And that is confirmed in the next couple scenes. At Angel's apartment, he dials the phone and we hear Buffy say, "Hello." Angel hangs up. It's a great way to show how Angel misses having that connection, how lonely he feels, and of course, how much he misses Buffy. And in Buffy season 4, episode 1, The Freshman, we saw the opposite side of that encounter. Doyle joins Angel, and Angel says he doesn't feel like he helped anyone. He just killed a vampire. But Doyle says Cordelia's very happy. Cordelia proposes the three of them start a business. She'll work for Angel. They'll charge for helping people on a case-by-case basis. Angel is skeptical about charging, and Cordelia agrees, no, they're not going to charge everyone, but they'll have to help some rich people eventually. And then she's very vulnerable. She looks down and says, if you think you can use me, referring to her proposal that she work for him, and he smiles and hands her a box of office supplies. Happy again, she tells him it's only temporary until her inevitable stardom. After she walks off, Doyle tells Angel she's a good choice to keep him connected to the world and humanity. And he adds that a lot of people in the city need help if Angel's game. The episode ends with Angel on the roof at night, and he says, "I'm game." It is a really strong episode. The plot moves very fast, despite that there is a pretty good amount of exposition that has to come in about Doyle, the powers that be, Angel's history with Buffy, the curse, Cordelia, and it is all woven in little by little, other than that chunk of backstory about Buffy. I was very skeptical of the idea of Cordelia being in a detective show with Angel. It sounded like it would be goofy before I saw it. And this just wiped away all those concerns. Cordelia is so very Cordelia when she talks to Angel. And given how lonely both of them are, and how much both of them are struggling, it makes sense that they are happy to see each other at that party and that they connect at the end and end up working together. I love those ways that the plot structure plays a bit with our expectations, even subverts them. That three-quarter turn subverts expectations in two ways. One, we think it's a climax, even though it's early. It seems like the climax when he's going to run in there and defeat Russell and save Tina. That's what we think. So that is the second way it completely subverts that expectation and takes us into a whole other part of the story. Then we have that confrontation at Russell's mansion and then a second confrontation. So another bit of subversion there of the traditional structure, but it sticks to it enough that it is a satisfying resolution. Going back to Cordelia, she's not only true to her character, it fits that she and Tina might be moving in the same circles. They both came to LA to try to be actresses. They're both struggling. They're both beautiful. And they are both the type of woman that Russell fastens on. There is, of course, a little use of coincidence there that Cordelia would be at that party and cross paths with Angel. But it works really well for me, partly because I'm so delighted to see Cordelia and because it's not like that initial meeting sparks this whole, hey, let's work together. In fact, she's ready to walk off again, like, hey, great seeing you, but I got to go talk to important people. And it's only because Russell fastens on her that they cross paths again. Also, Angel has been in LA for a while. If this was his first day there or his first week and he ran into Cordelia, that would feel like way too much of a coincidence. But he's been there for a bit and he has been looking for people to help. So for the most part, that feels really natural and it is a great way to get them teaming up right at the start of the series. So what is the point of this episode? What are the themes? I see the major theme as you cannot always win the day, even if you are the hero, but you can keep fighting, which is what Angel does. He can't save Tina, but he still goes after Russell. He doesn't defeat Russell, but he saves Cordelia, and then he still goes after Russell. And part of it is he wants to protect Cordelia. He does not want her to be worried about Russell coming after her. But he is also gradually moving toward accepting that mission, trying to make Los Angeles safer. other themes that are there, maybe not quite as strong as that one, but are the idea that why you do something matters. So Doyle is very clear on that. Yeah, Angel is out there and he's protecting people, but because he is not doing it with an eye toward connecting with them or being part of their world, he is at risk of becoming a danger to them himself, of becoming what he is fighting. Both connection and friendship are very strong here, that to do good, Angel needs to be connected to other people and to the world, and by extension, that all of us need that. Moving on to the most compelling characters, Cordelia, for sure, she is more nuanced already than she was in high school. She tells Angel she just pursued acting as a way to make some quick cash, and hey, it worked out. But we see that it is not something that produced quick cash or any cash. It sounds like she keeps getting close, but not quite getting the part or not getting audition. She takes home food from the party in her handbag and eats it when she gets home. She has only that one beautiful dress, and she's vulnerable in a way that we don't get to see very often. She says something to Russell when she's talking about how hard it is. She says that before in her life, if she wanted something and worked hard at it, she succeeded. She could reach those goals. And this is really the first time that she is working hard. She's doing all the things and she is not succeeding. And we can see how difficult that is for her. That takes her challenges with her parents, having lost all their money, to another level. Yes, at the end of high school, she was somewhat bitter. She couldn't go to any of the colleges that accepted her. But my sense is she was sure she was going to be fine. She would figure it out. She would go to LA. She would become an actress. And now she is facing that hard work doesn't always get you where you need to be, that you are not guaranteed to get what you want. Even if you do all the affirmations and you do all the work and you show up and you are beautiful and you are smart, that is not a guarantee. So that's a big change for Cordelia. Angel is the same Angel we've known, but a bit darker, setting aside his Angelus times, which is a whole other thing. But as Angel, his dark moments, and he had them in Buffy, were pretty strong. In amends, he was ready to end his life. That was when the first was tormenting him, though. This is the first time we see Angel. He's not actively being tormented by the first or a particular demon, but on his own, disconnected. He is moving toward a dark place, as Doyle points out. Now, we did see him in flashbacks before, living in an alley eating rats, but even there, he didn't seem that close to feeding on humans again. And now we see this is a struggle because he drank Buffy's blood and because he has been cut off. So while he wants to do better, it is a struggle for him, and it takes some internal debate that is played out through his actions before he is ready to take part in this whole powers that be thing. Doyle is a new character. He's sarcastic. He's a little bit funny. He's a little bit smarmy. When he's admiring Cordelia, he calls her a stiffener, which I could have really done without. But he does have some growth even in this episode. Initially, he is all, hey, I am just the messenger. I'm giving you this information. I'm not going to fight. I am not part of this. And by the end, he's smashing through the gates and he's going to join the business and be part of it. I also like Tina. She is much like Cordelia, someone who came there with these dreams, who worked really hard and has come to terms with acting is not going to work for her. She wants to go home, and she's doing everything she can to go home, to make a new start. And it makes it really heartbreaking when Russell kills her, because we are invested in her. The first time I saw the episode, I thought she might be a regular, not just a victim of the week. And I don't think she is a victim of the week, but I thought she might continue. Thank you again for coming back from the break. I know it was kind of a long one. I was both traveling and recovering, at least I hope, from an ankle injury that had me on an air cast for like 4 weeks, a little over 4 weeks, and then a brace for about 4 weeks while I was traveling, and now I am in physical therapy, so cross your fingers for me. Obviously didn't prevent me from working at all, but it did make me kind of tired. At the same time, I had a great trip to Prague. My travel companion and I saw a lot of fun places. He saw more than I did since he could walk around, and I was doing a lot of resting of my ankle. But it was still a lot of fun, and that is all of why I'm a bit behind on sharing comments. I really appreciate everyone who commented on those last couple Buffy episodes or anytime throughout the podcast. On Instagram, Cha Cha Charities talked about End of Days, specifically the Anya Andrew hospital scene. If you remember, that just didn't do all that much for me, though I did like some of it. And Cha Cha Charities says, I enjoyed the hospital scene. After Selfless and Storyteller, I was invested in these two, and it was a fun moment. It gives us a much-needed check-in with Anya that doesn't include Xander, which I appreciated. And I love Buffy's shoulder shrug when asked about her name. That was in the temple talking about the Guardian. It's the only part I remember from this episode. Hilarious. I love that observation that it is really nice to see Anya separate from Xander and talking about herself and her life and having Andrew interested in her views and how she feels and how she has grown and changed. So I love that perspective on it. I feel like next time I watch the scene, I will get even more out of it. There was also a comment on Patreon on End of Days from patron Melissa. I had talked about the fun of Angel being petty and jealous about Spike, and Melissa says, yes, Petty Angel. Petty Angel is a great example of how a character fault can be entirely enjoyable when deployed just a little. Not everyone enjoys Broody Angel, but I've yet to meet a Buffy fan who didn't enjoy Petty Angel, LOL. Or maybe because Angel is so consumed by his guilt and or mission that it's fun to watch him shake it for a moment, especially when the pettiness is, let's face it, also relatable. And I agree completely. Those are great observations. If Angel was petty all the time, we might get irritated with him, but because it's now and then, and because we can really understand where he's coming from, it makes it so much fun. Even Russell is interesting because while he's clearly a villain, he also clearly knows how to relate to people. He is a con man who is very good at connecting with people. He does it in a manipulative way for his own ends. But he is a foil for Angel, who is very awkward at connecting and yet has good intentions. So that reflection is really fascinating. Likewise, Tina is a foil for Cordelia, very similar to her, but obviously her outcome is the opposite of Cordelia's. The other new character is Lindsay. We don't get to know much about him, but he's interesting in that he is this lawyer for the bad guys who is putting this veneer of respectability on Russell, who is helping protect Russell and Russell's world. That is something that we did not see so much in Buffy, which brings me to my What in the World section, world building in Angel. How is this series in the same world as Buffy? How does it expand the Buffyverse? How is it different. And that is one way. In Sunnydale, yeah, we saw vampires in groups. The Master had his acolytes. Adam got some vampires to join him. But for the most part, vampires are not an organized force, and they are not living in the world. They're not signing contracts and buying property. Maybe Angel bought something because he had that really cool underground apartment, but not really clear. It seems more likely he was somehow squatting or had some deal. Drew and Spike live in that warehouse. They seem to find abandoned properties. And here in LA, in Angel, we are seeing vampires who are CEOs, who own industries and have their fingers in all sorts of things. And they have lawyers who are setting up corporate entities for them, creating alibis for them, allowing them to move through the world and interact with it and with humans without detection for the most part, which is why Russell says, I can do anything. He has much less fear than the vampires in Sunnydale. Tina's death tells us right off that we are not in the same type of show as Buffy. Yes, in the first episode of Buffy, Jesse died, and he looked like he was going to be a key character, much as Tina looks like she will, but there are some differences. Jesse's death signals that everybody's vulnerable. Anyone could die, even someone who seems like he's going to be a core character. Nonetheless, Willow and Xander, who are the ones who are really bonded with Buffy, survive. Buffy is able to protect them, save them from the vampires. And Buffy thwarts the Master's initial attempts to break out of that underground church. So she accepts the mission and prevails in the mission of, 1, becoming the Slayer again, and 2, stopping the harvest. And Jesse is not a terribly sympathetic character. I'm not saying he deserves to die, but he is that annoying guy, that kind of jerky guy. Cordelia is kind of awful in that first episode, but Jesse is also kind of awful. So it's not that we're okay with him dying, but he is not sympathetic in the same way that Tina is. So this tells us, Angel racing in, dramatic moment, he cannot save the day, and tells us that going forward, this might be a show where good does not prevail. Whereas, or at least I wouldn't say that it doesn't prevail at all, because we have him save Cordelia, we have him defeat Russell in the end, but that good is not going to prevail, not only all the time, but maybe not even most of the time. Whereas in Buffy, mostly good prevails. We have the use of gadgets here. Angel uses these gadgets to get into the mansion, to take the power out. He has those cool stakes that shoot out of his sleeves. So much more so than Buffy, who is fighting with a stake or a crossbow, kind of these old-fashioned traditional weapons. Angel is going to be a little bit more like Batman with cool stuff like that. It is a darker show visually. There are more night scenes. We start and end with Angel talking at night, looking over Los Angeles at night. The powers that be are much vaguer than the Watchers Council. In the first episode of Buffy, we meet Giles. He has all this lore to tell her about. He's very clear on his role as Watcher, her role as Slayer. Here, the powers that be, we don't know too much about them. Doyle, who is bringing their message, doesn't know much about them, and their message is very vague, versus Giles, who will send Buffy to do specific things and has all these books to look at and has a lot of clear guidelines about what the Slayer is and should do. Not that Buffy always follows them, but they are there. And in Angel, there's much more of a question of how this is going to go. The first episode of Buffy ends on that sunny day with Buffy and her friends. This one ends with Angel and his, I guess we might not quite say friends yet, his allies, but it is all in the dark. The difference in protagonist is set out very clearly as well. It's not just that Angel is a vampire, it is that he is struggling with becoming evil himself. There are references to the curse where he could literally turn into Angelus, lose his soul, and we see him even with a soul struggling with crossing that line. In contrast, while Buffy resists taking up her Slayer duties again because of how it devastated her life, there is no question that Buffy is going to fight on the side of evil or become evil herself. So that is a very big departure. And last thing, a little elaboration on the lawyers and Russell saying he can do anything. This episode really does set up evil as woven into the fabric of the city, operating in plain sight, protected by the law, using the law. Where in Sunnydale, despite that, pretty much everyone in Sunnydale High ultimately at least encountered some sort of demon or vampire. It was still considered an aberration. It was not acknowledged as part of day-to-day life. These vampires in LA, ones like Russell, they want to go on and continue to be part of this city and part of the establishment of the city. So very different feel. So those are my thoughts on those aspects of City of, and all we're left to do is to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being Once More with Feeling and This Year's Girl / Who Are You, my favorite Buffy episodes, and about 3.5 being Where the Wild Things Are. I put City of at a 9. This is a really strong episode. It does a great job introducing the series, setting the tone, giving us facts, bringing our key characters, Cordelia, Angel, and Doyle, together, and giving us a little bit of backstory, or in Angel's case, a lot about each one of them. If you would like to share your comments about City of or Angel or Buffy with me, please feel free to post on the Patreon episode, on Instagram or Facebook. There's a Buffy and the Art of Story Facebook page, or email me at buffystorypod@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. Come back in 2 weeks for Season 1, Episode 2, Lonely Hearts, where Angel pursues a killer in a singles nightclub. You can find back Buffy and the Art of Story episodes, as well as the Buffy and the Art of Story books and all my fiction and nonfiction at lisalilly.com. For more Buffy and the Art of Story content, early releases of regular podcast episodes, and access to my course, How to Plot Your Novel from Idea to First Draft, join the Patreon community at patreon.com/Lisa M. Lilly. That's patreon.com/LISA, M as in Marie, LILLY. Music for this episode was written and performed by Robert Newcastle. Buffy and the Art of Story is a production of Spiny Woman, LLC. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved.